Before we begin, I want to hear your experiences with Battleborn. Consider this an excuse to share your stories and experiences, and read and interact with others. My goal is to create a cool space people can read and reminisce. I'll be in the comments too, and I hope you enjoy the video. Battleborn is a complicated game to talk about. Finding the right words to discuss it even now is a little bit of a challenge. It's a game I've sunk a lot of time into, and its community has had an actual effect on my life. But it's also a game with a complicated and messy history, and on January 31st, 2021, it will be shut down, put into a state that no part of it will be playable. And that sucks. For every victory it's won, there's an equal or greater loss. It was received positively by critics, but then shunned by the masses. Its creators poured effort and care into it, but its publishers lacked confidence in it. Its communities were dedicated and adoring, but minuscule, and in the end it was a sheer matter of numbers. This video is one I knew I would make for a long time, and I put it off for that long time because it's an acknowledgement of the end. Right now, I want to thank the Battleborn community for being really receptive and kind. I'll go into that more later, but Battleborn is what brought me back to making videos, and the reception made me feel like I was doing something people enjoyed. The community helped me find something I love doing, and that means a lot. Battleborn was released May 3rd, 2016, developed by Gearbox Software and published by 2K Games. It had a second launch in early June 2017 of its quote-unquote free trial, which was a poorly named transition of the multiplayer to be free-to-play permanently. At the core, Battleborn is a hero-based first-person shooter with two main modes of play. Heroes have a primary weapon, active skills, and an ultimate. Heroes also have an instance leveling system. This means in each match, the player hero levels up, and with each level they choose an upgrade, up to level 10. Every match, the player starts from 0. The two main types of play are player versus player and player versus enemies. Player versus player sees teams of players going up against each other in different game types, leading lanes of AI minions to different goals against each other, like a traditional MOBA. PvE is the story mode of the game, which sees players undertaking missions to fight against Rendane and the Varelsi, an interdimensional enemy trying to consume the universe. This leads the Battleborn to fight across the few remaining planets, pushing through hordes of Varelsi and generate thralls. Through both of these modes, the player's account gains experience and currency used for gear items and a few cosmetics. On January 31st, 2021, the game will be taken totally offline. This video has gone through a lot of different revisions. It's just a shitty situation all around. A criminally underrated game is being shut down forever, meaning it'll likely never receive a fraction of the recognition it deserved, not to mention the idea of game archival. Was it perfect? No, but it was sure as hell deserving of a better fate than this. Originally, I intended to do a full review, but it just doesn't feel right for this moment. The game is pure fun, and somehow every single one of the characters is enjoyable to play. Soaring around as Benedict, sneaking as Pendles, healing as Alani, tanking with Galilea, every character is tuned so well to be fun. Everyone nails their voice performances too, and give the Battleborn so much character. The story is pretty simple on the surface, but there's so much lore to dive into. It's frankly insane how much quality world building went into the game. The game's visual style is just like the rest of the game, unique and colorful. Fuck, Battleborn actually made me like PvP, something I normally avoid like the plague. Its DLC operations were so unique and awesome. Its story missions and approach are also, and I'm saying it over and over, but they're just unique, and there's no other game like it. I put out a video in late 2016 titled An Open Letter to the Battleborn team. If you really want to know my thoughts on the game, the link is in the description. I'm probably not the first person to say it, but it's almost kind of poetic, the situation Battleborn found itself in. Battleborn's story is about losing a fight and being pushed back until you have nowhere else to go. It put up one hell of a fight, even delivering some honestly really cool DLCs with a genuinely inventive structure, fascinating themes and writing, and really distinct aesthetics. When I started with Battleborn, I was in a really dark place. From my failing relationship to my family life to my entire life path, I didn't exactly have a lot of stability. But for whatever reason, Battleborn was a really awesome escape and an outlet for those feelings. Its community was small, yeah, but with that came a kind of closeness and politeness. Sure, not everyone shared that, and there were definitely some bad actors, but on the whole, it was generally pretty super welcoming. With the release of the first new Battleborn, Alani, I felt like I had something to say. So with a super out-of-date recording software and Windows Movie Maker, I made my first video in years, all about Alani and how powerful she was at launch. What was weird was that people watched it and seemed to enjoy it. So I figured I enjoyed the process of making the video, maybe I could do more. And it's thanks to this that I met a best friend and someone I basically consider found family, Beckett. At a time in my life where I felt super disconnected from anyone, they reached out and welcomed me into the community and talked to me. Through thick and thin, they've had my back and I'll be forever grateful for that. To this day, we talk all the time and I let them and their girlfriend carry me in Apex Legends. I honestly can't thank the Battleborn community enough. Their amazing reception to some pretty subpar YouTube videos encouraged me to keep up with the hobby of video editing and production, getting better and turning it into something I still love to this day. Whether it was breakdowns of new characters, comprehensive lore guides, or playthroughs of each of the DLCs, the community came out in force. It's more than I deserved and was genuinely awesome. Writing this, I almost forgot Battleborn Super Hardcore. That was a fucking blast, but terrible for my anxiety. The conceit, if you haven't seen it, was that I had to play through all of Battleborn's story, but if a character died, they were no longer usable for the rest of the series. Not continuing that series might be my biggest regret when it comes to the game. Just writing about it now, I'm thinking about how much I enjoyed it. The totally unplayable state is kind of an insult to injury too. After the shutdown, no element of the game will be playable, no multiplayer or story mode. The lack of a transition to peer-to-peer or privately hosted games feels like a conscious omission. It gives a definite finality to the move. Hopes for a sequel or reboot were already pretty thin, but it's hard not to take the total closing of the game as a pointed message. See, I say that, but at the same time, some little part of me still clings on to hope. There'll always be that tiny spark that maybe something positive will come of the game and its demise. Maybe not a full-on sequel, but maybe a successor. A game that learns from Battleborn and uses it as a step forwards. Maybe it's stupid to have my hopes up on what feels like a lost cause. But then again, maybe it's just my own personal solace.
May our battle never end.